A very, very peaceful welcome to you all here at Djuma Game Reserve. We're very lucky that we're sitting with a herd of impala that are totally unconcerned with our presence. My name is Mark, by the way. Andrew's on camera and Tara is back in final control. This is Djuma Game Reserve. This is our sunset safari this afternoon. We are, I don't know, sometime during the week, towards the end of April somewhere. We don't really have days out here in the bush because our time is their time, and it's the animals out here that we watch, and it's their clocks that we go by to some extent because they have different clocks to us. We're sitting with a herd of impala on an open plain, and we are very, very lucky in that we can witness some very casual behavior that is often mistaken and often overlooked, especially in a herd of impala, because impala are quite numerous here in South Africa, well, throughout sub-Saharan Africa. Well, perhaps more the places I've visited, there are always impala. But I've often been asked about the flicks of the tail, and what we're witnessing here, what we're able to witness, is an incredible non-verbal communication between the members of the herd. It's a beautiful afternoon. An hour ago it was blue skies, it was very, very hot, and we were driving out, we were testing radio signals, we were trying to establish why we have a specialist here with specialist equipment to do radio things, and it's great that we've managed to sort some of our radio issues out. And within an hour there is a storm that has brewed in the northwest, and I'm starting to hear thunder, and it might just get to be a little bit exciting a little bit later on. I don't think it's going to rain. It's seldom that a big storm will come in from the north or the northwest, and if it does, it's a very short and sharp shower. I'm going to try and make my way just a little bit to the other side of this herd of impala, and we can look at them from a slightly different angle, also so that we can see the storm that's brewing to the northwest. I'd like to keep my eye on that this afternoon. To the south and the southeast we've got lovely blue skies, and what we're seeing now, this darkness that we're seeing now, kind of belies the fact that it is so beautiful and clear to the south, where we are going to have to go as well this afternoon, because there are cats down there that are digesting a buffalo, and we have to go and check up on them. Now, quite often on a hot afternoon we will not have impala out in an open area like this on the open plain, because, and I'm just going to the exact thing that I wanted to tell you about has just happened. Off to the south of us, some francolin were alarming, and a lot of the adult females, in fact there are still a lot of them that are alert and watching to the south. And you'll notice most of the impala that are watching are not flicking their tails, whereas the ones that are feeding, they are. And then as soon as the ones that were watching carry on doing whatever they do, they flick their tail. It's very hard to predict when something is going to attract their attention. It's very hard to tell whether it's going to happen or not. And it's also hard for Andrew, who's got to jump from one side of the vehicle to the other to switch camera angles. But that's one of the reasons why I want to sit here. But I want to get a little bit around them. I don't want to disturb them. There is something that disturbs some francolins or spurfowl to the south of us, and that stopped a lot of the more experienced impala. They immediately looked up and they looked to the south to see what was going on. And we need to maybe just take a note that there are alarm calls coming from the south. It's all these little signals we get from the bush, from the noise, from the bush telegraph about what's going on. But I want to talk about this flag signaling and this non-verbal communication by flicking their tails. So it's not all about chasing flies from the rear end. The spires actually come to both ends. It'll be interesting if there is another alarm call, and then we can actually see it in action. If something happens that changes their casual demeanor right now, the fact that they're all feeding, that their heads are in the grasses and they're feeding and their tails are wagging, tells me that they're all relaxed. But it's not that they're telling me, I'm just learning how to read their language. Actually what they're telling each other is with that little flick of the white tail, and if we get to a really nice spot, you can almost see it like a Mexican wave going through the herd almost. And it's a little message to each other to say, you don't have to put your head up, you don't have to stop feeding. You can actually keep your head in the grasses and you can carry on. Everything's safe. Because it's when the tails stop wagging that everybody lifts their heads to see why, and so suddenly there are more eyes on what might be a potential predator. There's still a few females that are looking to the south because there were alarm calls there. So I think they're still aware that there might be something. What's also interesting is that those markings that are on the tail help to reinforce that visual cue from the little bit of white that is flashed. Because white is such a stark color. There is nothing really out here that is white other than some of the birds and some, well, very few things. But whatever is, it stands out, and so that white fluff that they have under their tail becomes a whole alphabet, or rather a whole dictionary. Oh, listen to that. It's close. Rumbles of thunder. Sorry, distracted by thunder. But there are also messages that they will tell, or rather give, with those tails. When there is danger, there is more white that is shown. In fact, when they're escaping from predators, they curl their tail over their back and they show a very, very broad expanse of white of the tail, and that helps to warn others, but it also to some degree helps to maybe distract the predator. The markings, the black markings that we see, the stripes, just help to emphasize where and how subtle the flashes of white are as a background color. But they also just help to I suppose to see through the grasses, because most of the time their heads are down or their heads are in bushes. The impala are pretty much grazers and browsers. They're mixed feeders. They're wonderfully adaptable and they can feed on just about anything, and that is why they are quite numerous and why they're successful as a gregarious species. despite the fact that so many of them fall prey to all of the predators. They're just that size animal that just about everything that hunts impala.
This young one looks like he may have a bit of a limp.
I saw that. It might be nothing more than a devil's thorn in the hoof, or like when I stand on a thorn and I've got to walk on the side of my foot for a while.
Yeah, okay.
I've got a whole foot and 5 toes. That poor child's only got 2 toes to walk on. And but sometimes you can get, maybe not a devil's thorn, but I think most likely would be the tribulus. It's a three-pronged thorn. But that can get caught between the hoof, and it can just be a little bit. And eventually it'll fall out, or it'll get to it. You can't expect there not to be injuries. I mean, we're looking at an environment that has lions and leopards and wild dog and hyena and jackal and caracal and eagles and pythons, and there's so many things out there, crocodiles too, so many things out there that want to eat impala. There's no doubt that every now and then they're going to have to flee for their lives, and when you're running away and the adrenaline is pumping, sometimes injuries happen. But it's the ability of an individual animal to be able to get over that injury and to survive that injury, to be able to become stronger and be a viable candidate to carry on the gene pool. Because if you don't survive, clearly you're not really destined to carry on the genes. Let's move along. It's been wonderful watching a very peaceful herd of impala. There is a vast area we have at our disposal, at our feet, at our wheels, let's put it that way. I wanted to know what the plants were. We started moving already. There was a plant that had ball-like balls. Let's see, could it be these? I think it might be these things here on my right. Could it be those, Donna? If it's those are the red star zinnias, the dead red star zinnias. And here we go, here's a stalk. It looks like, like you get marigold seeds, because I think they must be the same family as marigolds, because it's very similar. The red star zinnias, none of these seeds are viable. I think we might just have a very fortuitous natural intervention. In that perhaps the dry period that we've had since, sorry, I've got to just get another one. I'd pull them all out if I could, but even now it might not be necessary. But here, it's probably one of the last petals you'll see, but there's, and a bit of spider web on it. Let me put it against the black of the steering wheel. You remember in summer these petals were bright red, and the anthers, I think, or rather the stamens, very bright yellow in the center of the flower, the red star zinnia. And so it could be that you were seeing. But it looks like when the drought hit, they hadn't quite fed their seeds very well, because pretty much all of these flowers, if we break them open, none of these seeds even grew. It doesn't even look like they were fertilized, but they might have been dying too early. We can only hope. And it's a sad thing to say, but they are an invasive species, and it's not really good to have them here, because look, there's a real flower. Let me show you something that's coming back up because the zinnias died. And can you imagine, instead of zinnias, imagine if we had little bits of plumbago and valeria and cleomes, and there's a little bit of a white plumbago. As far as I know, it's indigenous, but it's not long. It's certainly not invasive. Against the bark of the marula tree. Right, we need to carry on. And I have a quick glance at the rain that's falling over Manyaleti. You can actually see the rain in the sky to the north. This thunderstorm that we heard, it's moving pretty fast, and it's moving east, and it's not going to get us. Wow, there's quite a lot of water falling out of that cloud. And because there's no wind, you can see it's straight. It's like a straight waterfall. Ooh, I might have scared the hardy-dars. I got far away, wasn't that? Pretty nice. Believe, for those of you who are on our drive this morning, for our sunrise drive, I cannot believe the footage that you got. I can't believe how beautiful the light was. I saw the highlights. I wasn't able to see the drive, but I saw the highlights in FC, and it was unbelievable. That lighting view. Well, of course I'm envious because I wasn't there, and Brent should know how lucky he is to have Brent and Brian. Wow. But the light and the steam coming out of their mouths, that's one of those once in a lifetime mornings. You're not likely to ever experience that again. There is a lot out here that we find once in a lifetime, and I hope you can join us for it. I can't really help but stop and marvel at these children. I have a bachelor herd just south of my house, and I have a small herd of impala that live around my house, and they've never gotten used to me. I guess simply because they just don't trust humans there. These are quite hungry children too, because you can see how vigorously they're eating. They're doing more feeding than anything else, and it might have something to do with some oncoming climate change. Well, no, weather change, not climate. Weather change. Let's get specific. Okay, children, we'll see you later. Could spend all day with you, but we're going to go that way. We're going to look for your cousins. I can see one of their cousins right now. In fact, distant cousin. Cousin only in that. Oh, here's some canaries. Only that land. They're in the roads, Andrew. I'm going to use the gravity drive to roll forward, see if we can see those canaries in the road. Boys, something that might just change our plans. Have to. They're very shy. Yellow-eyed canaries, they're called siskins now, I think. Any of our birders, if you could send in a correction for me. To me, they yellow-eyed canaries. What's their new name? And that's I see a saddlebull stork. I see some monkeys. But more importantly and most interestingly, I see two Nyala bulls doing a strip. Genevieve, hello Genevieve, was asking about the zinnias, whether they get a mildew, I don't know. Not sure, but I'm distracted by this wondrous thing. You can see an impala, or rather a Nyala bull, walking away to the right. Okay, he's out of frame now. The most important one is this one that we're seeing now. How, I guess you can call it, his hackles are raised. The bull that walked away wants nothing of this particular display that's going on right now. And this is a Nyala bull that has reacted to another bull, is actually walking away. So I'm wondering if he hasn't maybe acquiesced and he's diffusing the situation. Sorry, I'm rolling forward to get more of the action. I thought we might see a big display. There is a very interesting dance that the Nyala bulls do when they're challenging each other. And who knows, could be that this bull's challenging both of the other two and neither one wants to play ball. The third bull has excluded himself from this particular situation because he hasn't followed them and he's clearly not going to. Well, he stopped displaying now, so I guess we've got some other things to look at. Most importantly, after the bulls, because they were the important thing at the moment, but they stopped doing what I thought they were going to be doing. Well, the buffalo, but interestingly there are some saddlebull storks here. And yesterday we saw the female saddlebull stork, and I was wondering whether that might have been a nesting issue. But now I see both of them here at the Gari Dam. I think the camera, the Djuma waterhole camera, might be able to see one of them on the opposite side with all the buffalo, but I don't know if you can see this one. And we're going to try and get it in line with these impala, and there's a Nyala behind the saddlebull stork, so if I can get all three in line through these bumps, I'll give you an idea of the size of a saddlebull stork. Behind the impala but in front of the Nyala. Bingo! I mean, bingo.
And there's a monkey coming in also.
And there's a monkey. Just for measure. And the oxpeckers. Where's the primate?
The primate's over here.
Oh, there. Velvet monkey. Welcome to Djuma, welcome to South Africa, welcome to our sunset safari. And this is the kind of thing that happens on a safari, no matter what day of the week it is, no matter what day of the month, no matter what day of the year. Seasonally it varies, but generally it's just this wonderful time of bumping into almost anything. And soon we're going to even go and look for lions. Or lion, plural. Question coming in this afternoon from Dallas, and Grace in Dallas wants to know what the impala are feeding on. These impala are feeding on grasses. These, I guess, it's hard to see in the grasses. Oh, that's interesting. Look, they're seeing herd probably because they've been cut off from the herd. I didn't think to mention that, but we've found these two female impala that had been hanging out with the buffalo and the nyala all day, and they might have been disturbed by leopard or something during the night, and that's why they were separated from the herd. And it looks like she's finally seeing the herd for the first time today. And I need to turn because she's going to be running towards them. Well, both of them are. Yes, there she goes. She saw the flicks of the tail, the little white flag of the tail, and finally they can get back to the herd. Sometimes when predators attack, or when the hyenas out at night, well, I suppose they're predators that attack, sometimes they can split a herd and, actually there's something happening here, but what it isn't exactly clear. They all came rushing out of the bush, maybe just to get to the clearing. Like a relief. They've come through that dense bush from where we first saw them. It's like we can't get away from this herd of impala this afternoon. They're following us for our whole safari. But they better wait here because we're going to go look for cats now, so they better wait here, I think. Maybe not the reunion that one might expect, but I think that these two are quite happy. There's a lamb coming to greet. Maybe, yeah, there we go. Trying to drink. He's been separated from his mother for over a day, maybe. And that's just seals my day. Anything else that happens today for me is a bonus. I mean, this shouldn't even be drinking anymore, and I doubt whether there's even any milk, so it's more of a comfort thing. It's more of a relief. Hello, Mommy, I missed you. Mom says, get over it. There are leopards out there. Okay, let's go find one of them leopards or cats or something, or elephants. There are more Nyala bulls displaying. I'm sure there must be some Nyala females that are in estrus that are leaving their scent. That must be affecting these bulls. Yes, darling, what have you got to say? I'm going to like to find out where these cats went, because we had time with the cats this morning. We can't go across the dam wall, and I don't want to spend too much time here. There are a lot of buffalo in the dam. There's a beautiful rain behind there, but there is the camera here at the Djuma waterhole. And right now, we leave a little bit earlier than the game drive vehicle, so I don't really want to go in front of the lodge. I can see the guests of the lodge in front there, and I didn't want to disturb them. So we're not going across the dam wall just yet. But I think what we ought to do is head down and see if we can relocate the lion that we saw this morning. And we might just find them and then leave them be, because they're going to be sleeping. It's a nice hot afternoon. The squirrel. And then maybe just take a trip up to Buffels's Dam. I still got to find an elephant. So I'm going through elephant withdrawal at the moment. About diseases or the fungus from the zinnias racing. I don't really know much about the zinnias other than they're an alien. They come from maybe South America, I'm not sure. They're just a plant that finds some of the overgrazed and denuded areas quite favorable here in South Africa, and so they proliferate. They were obviously brought in as a garden plant, and in fact there are a lot of plants that have been brought in as garden plants and exotics, I suppose, for their beauty, that have escaped into the wild, and they've become quite a problem. They've become what we call alien invaders. One of the worst of them is of course the lantana, and I'm sure there are many places all over the world that lantana has crept into South American plant that lives along mostly riverbeds, dry riverbeds, sort of dense vegetated areas where there's good water, good groundwater. And they're not the nicest of plants, even though they have a pretty flower. And it's sad when one has a passion for nature and you have an understanding of things, it's hard to dislike anything, but it's easy to understand how something from some other continent or something that doesn't belong can exploit an environment that it finds itself in to the detriment of that environment. And so past decisions have to be made, and you have to control species. I mean, we have a sound knowledge of what rabbits have done to New Zealand and Australia, or cats to some of the remote islands, or even rats, first of all. Ships who docked in remote islands, and rats became inhabitants of those islands, and then the idea was to put cats to catch the rats, but not thinking that all of the seabirds that lived on those islands became prey to those cats when they'd eaten all the rats. If they could do such a thing. So we kind of mess with the environment a little bit. And being an alien, the red star zinnia is not one of my favorite plants to really study about. All I know is I'd rather have some of the indigenous flowers growing under those marula trees rather than just a stand of aliens. The road that we're on at the moment is Twin Dams Road, by the way. And we're getting close to Twin Dams itself. It's an area where there were lion for the last few days. They killed a buffalo 2 days ago. And I really don't think anybody's actually found out where that buffalo was, or the carcass was. But they ended up sleeping around Twin Dams with very, very cool tummies, mostly yesterday. Brent had a fantastic time with them this morning, and I'm hoping that we're going to find them now. live lion from Africa. If you want to send any questions to us, this is interactive. This is me talking to you out there, whether you're in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Asia, England, Finland, Sweden, Denmark. I know if I forget a country, some of my viewers are going to say, what about us, South Africa, our viewers in South Africa? You can send in questions at WildEarthTV is the email address, or you can tweet hashtag Safari Live. The bird in that tree that I've been trying to get on camera for some time now, and it's quite far away, but its red head is very, very evident, kind of at about 11 o'clock. The light green tree in front of the jackalberry in the background.
Far back there.
No. This one in the foreground here, Gori. This one. And it's up in that sort of 11 o'clock where the leaves have been stripped. A little bit, yes, up there. And maybe we'll be able to, there's some movement, and hopefully it's going to turn around and you're going to see its red head. A little bit of red showing. Come on, child, please turn around. Or call or something.
Unfortunately, I'm at full zoom.
I know. And it's very, very hard, but there you can see its head. And well, it's closer than we were yesterday, because up until, or rather closer than it was a few minutes ago, because up until a few minutes ago we haven't really had one on camera, to my knowledge. But I've had a request. I'll probably expand it and say I haven't been able to get one on camera, although I hear them in camp every single day, and they sit above us in camp while we're busy in meetings. And I do remember it was Marco in New Jersey that was asking if we have red-collared barbet, and there's a red-collared barbet. That goes back a few weeks. Hey Marco, if you're watching, send us a tweet if you are. But there's your black-collared barbet. It's not easy that I can find a bird for just anybody out there, but if you do want to know about things, if you're curious about our bird life, our insect life, our spiders, snakes. I saw an incredible snake at the end of drive last night at Brias, and at first I thought that it was a monster Vibron stiletto snake, and then I realized afterwards, having gone through the book and looked into it a little bit further, although I still got to compare my photographs, but I'm pretty convinced now that it was actually what we call the common purple glossed snake, and it is probably about the biggest I've ever seen. Not that I've seen many. Excuse me, I have to collect something. There's a little pond here that has a plant. Sounds like the helicopter in that Pink Floyd album. I think it was about the 17th of last month, sometime last month, when I was asked about four-leaf clovers. Sorry, now I'm hearing thunder. Sorry, this helicopter's come out of the storm. I don't know what it was. I was almost dumbfounded by it. It's almost like seeing a very rare bird. This rotary wing monster coming through. And a storm brewing where it came from. I don't know. It's yellow. It's yellow. It looks like the shape of an old police chopper. I don't know what it is. Anyways, who am I to question the doings of the helicopter industry? That's my belated St. Patrick's Day gift. A four-leaf clover, and quite miraculous, there were two. So I wonder what it means in Irish folklore if you find two four-leaf clovers. Is it better against the black?
Yeah.
Well, I could put it here against this black. Oh wait, I have to turn them. Oh. I'm trying, but they're so flimsy, they're so finicky, they're so delicate. There we go. I'm not sure if it is an oxalis species, the clover species, but and I hate to create any disillusions, but this plant, all of its leaves are four-leaf, so it's not it's not really a special four-leaf clover. It is just a four-leaf plant with four leaflets. I should look it up actually, but it was just nice to find it. I think on the day when somebody asked me about clovers or four-leaf clovers or something on St. Patrick's Day or St. Paddy's Day, we came to this little pan, and I said, unfortunately, without any water in it, the flower isn't going, or rather the plant isn't going to be alive, so it's not going to be producing anything. And we came in, it was very dry. The buffalo had been wallowing, and well, it's actually quite interesting how it's transformed in a matter of 3 days, and this plant has suddenly been able to throw a few leaves. But I've always known the plant to live there, and I immediately thought of it when we had St. Patrick's Day. I'm very grateful for a little bit of rain that has fallen to wet the pond again subsequently and find you the leaf. So that was my flower for the day, almost, to the ladies out there. Hornbill in really pretty light. can still hear a little bit of thunder behind me. Onward ho. What up, Hornbill? From Angela in Missouri. Hello, Angela. Entering mushroom growing season in Missouri and wanting to know what season we have mushrooms here. Mostly during the rains. In fact, Angela was expecting that after the rains that we just had, and maybe with a bit more that might be coming, if it stays fairly damp and moist and humid without too much sunshine, we might actually find some mushrooms, but it'll have to be tomorrow morning on drive. Especially coming out of some of the middens, some of the animals' middens, the herbivores, naturally their dung, part of the fermentation, part of the digestion process of the animals involves fungi and bacteria and stuff, fermentation. So the dung is ripe for mushroom growth. That there are a number of mushroom species we will find. There are, of course, in fact, there are trees that have specific species of fungi or fungi. Tomato, this belong for a long time, and they just continue to grow year after year, and they remain quite dormant in the dry season. Of course, fungus. I was checking, we might go through a little bit of a signal breakup. We've been experiencing a little bit of signal issues where we are right now. So, look what landed in my hand. A female netwing beetle. Very pretty. Actually, it pooped on my hand. Thank you. You landed on my hand to poop on my hand. There is a little beetle poop. Bye-bye. Bye. Okay, I take that as a sign. What? How would you read that, Andrew? Although I guess I did encourage it to land on my hand.
You interrupted his flight path.
No. She would have had to land on the ground, or maybe she would have just done it in the air. It was a female, by the way, and I know that because I know what the male looks like. And since there's one netwing beetle flying around, I'm sure I'm going to be able to find you another. I guess we didn't have too much of a signal issue there. Some interesting insects out actually, because there's some insects that only come out really in the dry season. They kind of specialize in or they've managed to occupy a niche that allows them to operate in the dry season, and maybe it just sort of lessens the competition because there's so much insect activity in the wet season that makes it different. And normally things that I might find in June and July, I'm already finding now in April, and I hope I can find some of those for you. I just had a fantastic question sent in from Illinois, and I'm going to stop here so that I can chat to you about that question. We're at Twin Dams, and I know there's lions somewhere, and I'm glad that we have the class with us. We have Miss Jacobs' class in Illinois, and the question that I want to chat about before we're looking for lions is whether what happens to our animals in winter. And I'm going to park here so that maybe we can, while I'm chatting to you, Andrew can show you pictures of what life there is around a waterhole. But welcome to our drive this afternoon to Miss Jacobs' car, and what happens to our animals in winter and whether they hibernate like those in North America. Well, mostly our animals don't really do anything different. Our winters, I guess it's mostly because our winters are not that severe. We don't get snow, we don't get ice, and there is always going to be leaves on the trees and some of the grasses. Even if the grasses get dry, they're still edible for the animal. Animals can still eat them and digest parts of them, even if they're not as nutritious and as good as they are when they're green. But the animals pretty much carry on doing what they're doing. There are some creatures, there are a lot of creatures that don't do anything in the winter because it's the dry season. Not so much because it's the winter, but more because it's the drier months. And so we expect there to be less insect activity. There are a lot of birds that migrate back to their northern climates, whether it's in Africa or Asia, and a lot of the plants shut down. The reptiles don't really hibernate, but they do get very slow because the nights can be quite chilly, and sometimes you'll see them in the morning sitting in the sun. So they do keep moving about a little bit, but they don't go into a full hibernation that one might expect, or that you might find in countries where there is a lot of ice and snow. A lot of our animals here are territorial, so they have to maintain their territories. They still have to carry on doing what they're doing all year round. And all of the herbivores, there aren't many in fact there aren't any of the herbivores here that could last more than a couple of days without their daily ration of grass or leaves, and so they have to carry on feeding and carry on doing what they have to do. But they do have to deal with temperature changes at night and enjoy whatever warmth they can get during the day. But sometimes our winter days can be as high as 80 degrees in the middle of winter, and it might drop down to maybe 50 odd if we're talking Fahrenheit. A bit of an adventure as we go and see what happened to the lion that were here. In fact, they were sleeping right here last night, so let's go see if we can find them. I think I heard baboon children, young baboons, barking a little bit. And that could be that they're shouting at the lion. From what I understand from Brent, they were here. In fact, the most beautiful footage this morning, we had the sun coming through underneath this jackalberry, and I think the lion were here going down into this floodplain of the riverbed. I I think they went up that way. Brent said they went up into this eroded area or above the sodic site. Just look up the riverbed just in case they maybe slipped on the sand. It doesn't look like it. I would have thought they might sleep there, but far from here are some pans where we've seen Mission in Djuma in the past, just off the Leadwood Road, and anywhere north of this starts getting towards places like Mumba Road. I hope we're going to be able to find them. It's very, very thick in here. And okay, I see a cat. I see a lion, and it's lying down again. So fortunately, they haven't gone too far. Some of them look like they're awake. Oh, there's the young male, and there's another female. Looks like they might even be waking up this afternoon. Gosh, look at this. We've got a whole bunch of cats all around us. This is a pride of lion that we call the Nkuhuma pride, and we've been very lucky that they've been in a relatively small area over a few days. It appears that they must have killed a buffalo about 2 days ago, and have mostly fed on it, and I suppose finished it, and they've been digesting that buffalo here at Twin Dams since yesterday morning, I think it was.
I wonder if we can move to a little bit that
We're going to. I just had to stop here at first because that one was there, and it's going to be much better when with the sun behind us. Like some of them are still a little bit uncomfortable, still a little bit full. Gives us a view of most of the pride. It looks like most of that buffalo has been digested. Some of them that are coming out now looking almost as though they haven't eaten for days, but we know that in the last 24 hours they've been so full-bellied. one of the sub-adults that is coming out now, rubbing heads with perhaps Bomb. I think they're getting ready to move. But the toileting is par for the course if they've been sleeping. We've had a rather hot day, and so I have no doubt they've been sleeping most of the day. And once they wake up, of course they need to, just much like us in the mornings when we wake up.
It's unfortunate that we downwind.
You wanted to come here. We are, unfortunately, but we're going to be moving. I need to, excuse me. Big herd of buffalo. I'm picking up news of the big herd of buffalo on Biffles of cut line. Some Bengal at east of Twin Dams, just east of the Milwaukee. I don't think they're going to really be active. What we can do now, Andrew, we're going to sit just behind that guarri bush over there, and then we'll be sidewind to them, because some of them are going to also come out into the open. This cloud is going to be obscuring the sun very soon. It's cooling down, there's a nice breeze, and they'd rather be out in the breeze trying, well, than tucked under the bushes out of it, out of the wind. So it'd be nice to maybe just change position. And we can have a much closer look at a lioness and some of the features of a lioness. You see, look at them. Hello girls, do you mind if we join you? Can we sit here with you please? You get to see the different faces, and you can actually see how different they look. That lioness, the back left lioness, she's one of the prettiest lionesses. I need to go forward a little bit, sorry. I seem to have blocked her view with that knobthorn. Just a little bit forward. There we go. Hello to Miss Jacobs' class in Illinois. That's what she's smiling at you. She's not looking because she doesn't want to threaten you if she looks at you with open eyes. So she's just looking through closed lids. Hello to Angie. Angie's in a higher, very interesting question from Angie actually. What happens to the young male when he kind of gets pushed out of the pride? Will he follow the pride at a distance? It's quite possible, Angie. I have seen that happen before, where he tries to sort of tag along and keep his distance and hope to pick up the odd scraps and to stay under the radar. So it's quite possible that he will. And most likely he'll have to gain a little bit of independence within his natal territory, within his home ground, places where he's comfortable, where he'll be able to adjust to being on his own before he heads out on his own to conquer the world, to carve out a territory and have some cubs and eat buffaloes. Well, maybe they're not going to move just yet. It is a bit early for them to do so. Unless there was something, unless something came along, you know, something was to walk past, like kudu or waterbuck or giraffe or something, even if it was only a half-hearted attempt. They've got the energy to burn, having had a big buffalo meal, to even make a rush for something, even if they know they're not likely to catch it. But I think that it's still a little